Hello. It's been very, very busy. Yes. Yeah. That's the dogs. Oh, apparently there's no sound from you, so nobody likes your sound, so clearly your mic is not working. Give me 1 sec. So, I'll take over just for the time being whilst I get that. So, paraphrasing what Simon has said, it has been one of the busiest days we've had in a long time here at the centre, certainly today and over the past couple of days. Today's really hit the ground a lot heavier than we were expecting, and literally up until the point that we started this, we hadn't sat down and he's still trying to work on it, and we weren't really able to do anything that we normally would today, so it has been incredibly busy. I will just add a microphone for Simon back in. It appears that there is a camera issue there. Simon, you disappeared. Guys, I don't know if you can hear me, but don't disconnect the camera. It will be fine. Don't disconnect the camera. It will be fine. This is no. You can't do it that end. Please bear with us, caller.
Right, I'm now black, Laurie. Can you hear me there? Nothing.
Yes, we can hear you.
We put a different camera in.
Different camera, but there's no picture, which is not very helpful.
Yes. Hang on.
So Laurie's swapping the camera off. Laurie hasn't learned this art of radio where you can never be silent for more than 4 seconds on radio. So it's quite clearly.
I'm now back.
I'm disappearing off the bottom of the screen, but we can adjust that.
This is what happens when you allow Simon to sort his own technology and sort that out.
Hang on. I don't normally have to. People come in and do it just because you two are inefficient, inappropriate, and wrong time of the year and everything else. I think I'm just going to go straight to Christmas.
Everyone can hear you.
I think we'll go to Christmas now. It's Christmas.
Would you like to start again, Mr. Cow?
No, not really.
Take two.
Take two. Right. I did say, guys. We really have been flat out today. Normally now I'm getting so old I tend to try to take it a bit easy in the afternoons. Today this has not happened at all. It's been very flat out. We've been filming with a company from Croatia for a TV program in Croatia, which we'll probably never see, but they've been filming at the centre all day, and they've just been to Finland, and I see a comment from Finland here, so welcome Finland. You will obviously see us in there. There's the film crew with us this morning, and in fact all day. I think didn't think we were going to be quite as busy. We did not stop. We sort of, it's like anything at this place. You tend to start working the day. You have no idea what the day is going to bring, but today things were throwing at us left, right, and centre all through the day. We had rescues going on everywhere, situations going on everywhere, and I think one of the most interesting ones for me, or I thought it was the fact that somebody rang up. They had is a pest controller, so we won't mention the company because I might be rude about them. But they got called out to a house somewhere. We don't know where it was. We never learnt the location. And there were 3 fox cubs in somebody's attic. It was a bungalow, and there were 3 fox cubs in the attic. So they managed to get them out, but then they found another 3 which they couldn't get to. So we said, look, just give us where the address is, and we'll come out and grab them. The guy was very unhelpful. He didn't want to give us the address. Wouldn't give us the address. Wouldn't give us the woman's number. Wouldn't tell the woman our number so she could ring us. So we're really struggling. We've got 3 of the fox cubs. They're here. They're safe. I'm sure Laurie's got some pictures of those somewhere. Although I bet he hasn't taken any pictures of them because he's not that on the ball, Laurie, really. He's a bit slow. But the other 3, we've no idea what's going on. So there's one of the fox cubs. It came in today, eyes closed, but in a woman's attic. So I've never, of all the time, all 40 years, I've never heard of a fox earth in an attic of a bungalow. And apparently the other earth, she had the secondary earth, was in the bungalow next door. So all very peculiar. But they're really cute, their eyes shut. They'll be fine with us now. It's just a shame that we've taken them away from their mum, which we always try not to do. We always try, if we get a call like this, we try to sort of wait, we put cameras up, we go and watch to see if mum will come back for them. But obviously in this instance we had no choice, simple as that. So they're here. Whether the other 3 will ever appear or we'll hear from this pest controller again, I don't know. At least give him his credit, I suppose. He did ring us, give him his credit, he did ring us. He did say, look, can somebody come and get them? So fair dues. He didn't bump them off. Which is what Laurie's trying to do with me now. Now I'm getting so old. Laurie keeps running around. Yeah, he runs around behind me now with a syringe of Pentaject, just in case he can stab me in the bum and I don't know about it. He's trying to take over the show. We all know he is. He says he's not, and he smiles that sort of angelic little smile. And beneath that angelic face is a very nasty man. See? Yeah, I know what you're like, really. And we'll get some comments in a minute. People will say, you know, Laurie comes across all nice and sweet. Underneath it all, he's a bit of a demon. Well, that's what I hear anyway. So we did that. What else got? So we had what else? We had lots of calls.
Here's my resignation now.
No, I can't read, Laurie. Sorry, too blurred. Can't see it. Yeah. So we had that going on. We've had 8 ducklings brought in this afternoon. So that's going on. So you know, not even April. And we've got 8 ducklings. Heaven knows what it's going to be like at the end of the year. I bet that's a picture from about 5 years ago, because you know how slow Laurie is.
That's actually a picture from about 5 minutes before we went live.
Well, look at that. You see, Laurie is really on the ball. I won't talk about his balls too much tonight, because that would be embarrassing. But he's certainly on it. He's got a speech. I can make Laurie go speechless. I love it. I love it, guys.
As you may have seen...
Oh, look, Laurie, hang on. Look, greetings from India. Welcome, India. A country I've always wanted to visit. Love to come out to you. So if you can get any wildlife issues going out there and you need a very antique, old, decrepit, slightly incontinent and senile presenter, I'm yours, guys. I'm here. I'm going very cheap. Yeah, Laurie does that thing every now and then with this. I always get mine the wrong way around. I've done it right tonight. You expect to do that.
Go the opposite way and you're fine.
It's all reversed. It's all reversed. So yeah, busy day. What else we had on, Laurie? Because you probably know more than I what's been going on, to be honest.
We have had an awful lot, so we'll get to Orphan season shortly, which is what really this one's all about. But in terms of other animals that we have had at the centre, we've had a few sort of slightly unusual cases, and of course the first one of them to talk about is this little guy. Now this is a dormouse, specifically a hazel dormouse.
It's a push-me-pull-you.
Beautiful things.
Laurie, that's a push-me-pull-you.
This is why we don't leave you in charge of actually identifying the animals that come into the centre. As Ricky Gervais said, he doesn't know anything at all. But this little guy was actually caught by, I believe he fell out of his, the nest. The nest was actually cut out of the tree by a guy working on a hedge and was discarded elsewhere. And those species are actually there, highly protected, very difficult to fully get back under the correct conditions. So we managed to stabilise him, get him perfectly fine, and he actually went off to a specialist facility who will just complete that rehabilitation journey and get him back to the wild. So he will be back to the wild very, very shortly. But beautiful things. I always love dormice. The other slightly more unusual thing is this little guy. Now this looks like the standard bat that we would usually get, something like a common pipistrelle, but this is actually a whiskered bat.
Laurie, it looks a bit like you on a Monday morning, actually.
Thank you.
It does.
That's why we don't do live streams on a Monday morning.
No, that's true.
This is a whiskered bat. It's one of the more rare species that we get in the UK. And I was going to make a joke about it looking like Simon, but unfortunately he's been
too late. Too late, Laurie. It's amazing. I'm just looking down the screen. I'm trying to read. When my eyes go off the camera here, I'm looking down the screen. We've got Sweden, we've got Denmark, we've got India. How many? Netherlands, Ireland. So many countries listening to us. Guys, you're so great. Spread the word, because if we could get every country in the world looking into us, it'd be really cool. But why would anybody want to listen to you? And why would anybody want to listen to me? It's very strange.
I asked that question many times.
I know.
The other thing
you get paid to listen to me.
Pardon?
You get paid to listen to me.
Not enough. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of at the moment are foxes, adult foxes as well as the younger ones, and unfortunately an awful lot of them come in with one of two conditions. And the first one is of course RTA. So RTA stands for road traffic accident. It's basically when any animal is hit by a car. So we went out to this little guy quite late at night. As you can see, he's got quite a cut on his nose, and when he first arrived he was basically unconscious. Went out there, he was barely moving. He'd been hit so hard he'd actually vomited all over the road. Really easy to pick up. To be completely honest, didn't think he would make it through the night. But our vet team set to work. They were determined to save him, and amazingly, after just a few weeks of quite intensive care, he was looking so much better. You see there, the wound on the nose is basically gone. Completely back to normal, very feisty, running around the pen, and he was able to be released back to the wild. And I have to say, he's one of the most handsome foxes I think I've ever seen. That is an absolutely beautiful fox, and it was a pleasure to put him back out to the wild.
Very pretty boy. And since you've been speaking, we've got Germany, we've got Belgium, we've got the Canary Islands, we've got Old Trafford, we've got the northeast of England, we've got the world looking at us, Laurie. How do you feel about being so exposed to the entire world? It's like being on the Oscars, Laurie, really.
Scared.
You're that famous.
Can I come in and hit you, or is it too?
Yeah, no. That happened the other night, and Will Smith got into terrible trouble for it. So we won't repeat that, because I'd sue him. I wouldn't be like the other guy. I would sue him for everything he's got.
Moving on from politics. The other thing, of course, that we see a lot with the adult foxes that we get in is mange. Now, mange is actually caused by a parasitic mite, the Sarcoptes scabiei mite. It burrows under the skin of the animal, and the itching that produces ends up with these horrible scabs, the fur loss, and a lot of other things that go along with it. And Simon is coughing, so I apologise if you've been deafened, if you are wearing headphones.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Abby was deafened. She's now lying in a twitching heap on the floor. So this little guy arrived with us quite some time ago, and it takes a lot of time to get a fox with mange back. So you don't only have to treat the mange, which you do in several stages, to not only treat the mites, but then the eggs and what hatches from the eggs. You have to split it up into various treatments. You also have to treat any secondary infections, things like pneumonia or pressure sores or abscesses or anything like that come with it. And a lot of the time a fox will get mange if it's immunosuppressed in some way, so you have to treat whatever is causing that immunosuppression. So it's quite an intensive process to get a fox that's this mangy back. But amazingly, this guy has done absolutely perfectly, and within a few weeks he was looking like this, which is an awful lot better and an awful lot more like the fox that he should be. So this fox is actually nicknamed Cosmo from the guy who caught him and brought him into us, and he is due for release very soon. So hopefully we can bring this guy back, and he will have his second chance back in the wild, where fingers crossed he won't be getting mange again, even though they can get mange again.
So I'm going to go off on a tangent again now, because we've
got like your tangents.
We've got South Africa. We've got Sky Bloom, who's Lucy's mum, and Lucy both on the line. We've got USA. We've got Hawaii, Canada, Middlesbrough, Montreal.
New York.
Poland,
New York. It's going berserk, guys.
I like Hawaii.
I can't believe it.
Can I come and visit? I like Hawaii.
I think we should go to all these countries that come to us. All you've got to do, guys, is send us the airfare, and we'll be out. We'll film with you. We'll be ever so nice to you if you've paid for us to go out. And it'll be a lot of fun. It's amazing how many people actually do come onto this. I know it's not a huge number of people, but the people, the scatter from all over the world is absolutely huge. And I'm flattered, to be honest. I wish I didn't have so many wrinkles. My neck looks, I've got to start wearing a scarf, Lauren. My neck looks horrible now. I look all old and wrinkly, and I don't like it.
I'm just watching you go further and further down a tangent route.
I'm going downhill towards my coffin. I can feel it coming on quite quickly.
That's nice and positive.
We've got Stockton, Surrey, Epsom, northwest London.
Okay, so
it's getting closer.
Going from your impending demise to new life, nice tangent there. Let's get actually into some of the orphans that we've seen over the past couple of days. So it's been incredibly busy here, and we have had more fox badger cubs and other animals than we've had in that space of time for quite a while. So in terms of fox cubs, of course, we've had many of them. So I believe we're on 17 at the moment. So they started coming in as much smaller cubs. So this is feeding one of our first cubs. With eyes closed, it takes a bit of time. They open their eyes between 4 and 5 weeks usually. So a bit of time for them to open their eyes. But once they do open their eyes, they are much more active. I think you can definitely agree with me that they are absolutely adorable. And these guys have come in from various different reasons. So we've had everything from mother being attacked and killed by a dog, unfortunately, to several that were dug up, several that were just found out in the garden with no sign of their parents, and sadly, despite efforts, they couldn't be reunited with them. But we have many of those, and they are the first of probably what is going to be about 75 by the end of our orphan season. So they will be grouped into groups of usually about 6 to 7 animals. We split them ideally 50-50 with genders male and female, depending on what we've got in. They will then be grouped and will stay in those groups throughout their journey at the centre. And then when they're soft released, they will be put in those groups into one of our soft release pens and return to the wild, hopefully in late summer, sort of June, July time. The other thing that we've seen a lot of, and something that certainly Simon likes an awful lot more, because despite what he tells you, they are definitely his favourite animal, is these black and white stripy things.
Oh, ugly little devils, Laurie, they're so ugly.
So this is, as you may be able to tell, a baby badger. So this is our first badger, which actually came down from Norfolk. So it was transferred from Norfolk Badger Trust. Luke from there actually brought it all the way down to us and has been with us ever since. He was initially quite dehydrated, having difficulties going to the toilet, but we have managed to get him back, and he is now doing much, much better. His eyes are open and he's feeding for himself. And in fact, earlier today he actually moved back into our main pens at the hospital, so he is doing absolutely perfectly.
So here's excitement for you, Laurie. Here's excitement for everybody. So on the webcam, starting from now, our badger cubs have moved up to the top. We'll show you a picture later on. I'm just looking. I don't think they're out at the moment, but they are now up in SU1. And if you go onto our webcams, you will see them there. You may see them playing. You may see them asleep in their bed. But they're not out at this second. But we will keep watching in case they do come out. I've actually lost the camera. I think Laurie's blocked me from it. He's blocked me from my badger cam.
It's because you can't use technology.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. No, they're not out. No, they're definitely no. There's the face sticking out, I think, of one of them. We'll go on to that later on. And while we've been doing that, we've got more people from more countries. We've got money coming in. Our FXP 1688, as always, is in there rocking. He's rocking, boy. And just for him and everybody else, much to my amazement, shall I say, my chagrin, I should say, my panic, I should say. We're having not an open day this year. We're not having an open day. We're having an open weekend. So I've got to be nice to people for 2 days. So Saturday and Sunday, the 2nd and 3rd of July, we will be having our open day. Anybody wants to come over and see us, you're very sad people that you've got nothing else to do. But we will welcome you with open arms. Or I shall welcome you.
Meet both of us if you really want to do that. And you'll be able to see around the site, so see what goes on behind the scenes. You've seen bits of it on the videos and things like that, but we actually do offer full hospital tours, so if you want those, tickets will be available very, very soon, because obviously we have to control numbers on those. But we'll also have a number of stalls, so local craftspeople, usually animal related products, everything from photography to woodwork and paintings and all of that lot. Food, we'll have live music, we'll have a whole load of things, talks, mostly from Simon, so if you want to go to sleep, I would recommend going into one of those.
I should be doing no talks this year, but I will come in and I will really bicker from the back when Laurie does his talk. I shall be heckling him from the back this year.
Back in 2019, I did the first talk I've ever done for this charity, and as I was doing it, he crept in through the back, sat at the back, and kept throwing remarks and things that I would never have known the answer to, just to try and put me off. So
you're lucky I didn't throw anything else, Laurie, really.
On stage, please do come along.
Laurie, you're lucky I didn't throw anything else. You're very lucky that it wasn't the rotten eggs. I might save up some rotten eggs this year because it'd be funny. I think everybody, if I throw a rotten egg and it hits Laurie, I think I'll do £5 for every rotten egg. So if you want to see Laurie smattered with rotten eggs, worth it. That we get £5 an egg. £5 an egg. I will be throwing it. And I can't say that actually. I was going to say something. No, I can say it really. We went out to shoot a badger. We sadly had to shoot a deer the other day, and I've shot hundreds of deer over the years because they can't be saved or they're in such a terrible state. And just as I pulled the trigger, the deer moved its head. and I didn't actually shoot the deer. I shot the ground next to my foot, and apparently the language was appalling. Yeah, the language was appalling from me apparently. So I'm told. I did get it on
our CEO.
I did get it on the second shot, but I've never done that. But 40 years I've never missed. So is it just, Laurie? Is it just old age and senility, or is it because the deer moved its head very quickly at the last second?
I don't know. It's a combination of everything.
And if Laurie makes any more rude comments, I shall make sure where I shoot next time.
Moving on back to black and white stripy things.
Swiftly.
Our first badger cub was quickly joined by a second. So this guy is actually from RAS, which is the Wildlife Rescue and Ambulance Service, another rescue that's based down towards Eastbourne, the south of England. And badgers and foxes, they always do a lot better when they're raised with their own kind. They need that interaction to learn how to be a badger or how to be a fox, and the instincts that they get that are necessary for them to survive in the wild are taught through that interaction with their own kind. So very, very kindly, Katie from RAS arranged for this little guy to come up to us, joined our second one, and very, very quickly we actually turned 2 into 3. So the third one is from another wildlife rescue. This is from Brent's Lodge, which is another wildlife rescue. I know that a few people from Brent Lodge are actually in the comments, so hello for everyone in there, and thank you very much for bringing this little guy down. So
Brent Lodge, I've never heard of Brent Lodge. I've never heard of them, Laurie. No, I've never heard of her at all.
You're being incredibly mean.
She keeps ringing me up saying, "Can I bring this up? Can I?" Yeah, so we just do swapsies. We play swapsies, with Brent Lodge.
Brent Lodge actually took one of our older fox cubs as well.
They did.
Because we had an eyes open fox cub that we only had one of, and they had one as well. So we took the badger, they took the fox, and it enables the species to actually be raised together. It's much, much better for their chances of getting back to the wild. So huge thank you to the guys from Brent Lodge from that one. And actually, we now have a 4th badger. So that one arrived quite recently. Unfortunately, we don't have any photos of that yet. But if you do head over to our webcams, which Simon pointed out earlier, are on our website, which is www.wildlifeaid.org.uk, you can actually see all of them. They are all up there in the pen at the moment, and will be running around. Abby has put the link in the chat.
The
link's in the chat, so there we are.
So we have 4 badgers, and I believe something like 16 plus fox cubs, maybe more than that now. You lose count very, very quickly.
It's going a bit extreme so early in the season, and to get 8 ducklings today, it's just so early. It scares me what our orphan season is going to be like, and I know I get into a lot of trouble for this, but it is only your donations and people's donations that keep us going, and I can see that this year is going to be absolutely frenetic.
Yes.
We've already had to buy a load of kit. We've actually bought a special biochemistry machine.
We'll get on to that one actually, because that is actually thanks to an awful lot of you guys. So you may remember a few weeks ago we released a fundraiser for a vital piece of equipment. So one of the things that we rely on very, very heavily here at the centre is blood analysis. So when you get an animal in, obviously you've got no history, and if there's no physical wounds on it, it can be very, very difficult to work out what's wrong and then what to treat. And especially with wildlife, timing really is critical. And the earlier you can get an animal onto treatment, vastly, vastly improves its chance of coming back and being able to go back to the wild. So we have, for a number of years, had a very aging blood testing piece of machinery, which was absolutely vital for everything. You could tell when something's poisoned, whether something had kidney failure or organ failure, exactly what was going on. You could even tell very specific things that would dictate a treatment plan. But unfortunately, that then stopped working. And with that, we lose an awful lot of what we can do and what we can find. So we needed to replace that very, very quickly. So we put out a fundraiser for that, and you guys are absolutely amazing. You raised that in no time at all, and I'm delighted to say, and to cut Simon off the screen, saying that we now have our new unit. You can see it on the right. This is an IDEX Catalyst 1. It's absolutely state-of-the-art thing. You'll find that in a lot of veterinary practices, and that is one step along the way to making sure that we can work out exactly what's going on with any patient that comes in and get them onto the relevant treatment plan as soon as possible. So thank you all so much to anyone who donated towards that. You are making a massive, massive difference. And in fact, we had a fox earlier today that arrived with a couple of very, very strange symptoms, and we've worked out exactly what was wrong and the treatment plan purely down to this machine. So thank you so much, it really is vital.
I don't want to scare everybody, Laurie, but the other bit of kit we want to go with this is even more money, and we don't even ask for that yet. It's another hematology machine. It is heinously expensive. And when I said to Laurie, oh, we got that, that's great, let's go for the next one. And we said, no, Simon, wait, don't peak too soon, Simon. Laurie always says that to me. I don't know what he means by that, really, but he just keeps telling me not to peak too soon. Do you think I've already done that? Do you think I've peaked?
The odd clicking sound that people might hear in there is probably Abby typing at the moment.
Simon's camera.
Oh, Simon's camera is apparently clicking, so apologies for that one if you can hear that one.
It's the old camera, so I can't stop it because the other one wasn't working.
Why is my camera clicking?
I'm not sure. It's probably because we have bad cameras.
Oh, that's the phone. I'm gonna block that off. Let's stop that phone ringing. Okay, so you know that could go up to hospital.
We're absolute consummate professionals here. You'd never hear anything else. So moving back to orphans, and as well as the mammals, we've also had a lot of birds. So some of you may remember our first robin of the year. Now this is quite a shock. We were expecting to get tiny ones just out of the egg, and this little guy is basically a fledgling, which was quite surprising and threw a lot of people a lot of questions. But amazingly, this guy was able to be rehabilitated and released very, very soon. Before too long, he was in an aviary, flying around perfectly. So this is a robin, an English robin if you're talking to us from America. And this is the plumage they'll get really up until they start to develop that orange breast after a little bit of time in the wild. So you will see ones in the wild that look like this. Bear in mind that is perfectly normal to see them at this point, and they will develop that typical red-breasted plumage later down the line. But that one was a bit of a shock, and then very recently we had what we would expect at this time of year, which is the first young one. The first young one we had was this little guy. Now this is a blackbird. Again, quite developed for a bird of this time of year. You can see the feathers in pin there, and that is pretty much the only angle
Laurie, do you want to
ever
explain
see of a blackbird.
Laurie, let me just stop you. Can you explain in pin to people who don't understand it?
So in pin, if you look at the bottom of the photo there, and you look at the feathers, you can see that there are the feather shaft sticking out, and then the feather just starting to emerge from that. So that is what we call an in-pin feather. It's how feathers grow, and eventually those feathers will emerge from the shaft and be normal. But you can always tell a bird is either young or going through a molt when you do see this sort of feathering on there. So it's a very, very good diagnostic tool to work out the age of a young bird as well. So this little bird is doing really, really well. It's now up in our dedicated bird unit, which has now all been separated from what it was, which was actually our hedgehog overwintering unit. It's now back to being our bird shed, and is being fed very, very regularly by our volunteers. The other thing that has come in recently is this. Now this is another young bird. You can see the feathers there are also starting to be in pin, but this
looks
is actually
like Laurie.
a young
Doesn't look
robin.
like you, Laurie. Laurie, that looks like you.
That looks exactly like me when I wake up in the morning.
It does. And at 5 o'clock at night too. It still looks like you.
But this little guy, I'm not entirely sure. I believe the mother was killed by a cat or something along those lines. But that's actually one of two that we have at the moment. Unfortunately, we don't have photos of the second one, but the second one is much, much smaller. Literally, it's only about this sort of size. So at that age, they need feeding every half an hour or so, even more regularly than that, depending on whether they're just out the egg. And that is thanks to our volunteer teams who basically live in that orphan unit over the orphan season. So huge thank you to all you guys who put in so much work getting those birds back from tiny, tiny little jelly beans right the way up to where they can be released back to the wild. It's only possible thanks to you, so thank you very much.
Tiny, tiny little jelly beans?
You've called them
Laurie,
that before.
Laurie, you've lost the plot. I tell you, tonight I'm disappointed. I've been looking at the screen, which is down to my right-hand side, and there's no 5 pounds coming in. I need the 5 pounds for the eggs. I'm happy to go and buy the eggs. I will pay for them myself, but I want to see some 5 pounds coming in because on the 2nd and 3rd of July, I want to be hurling at least 100 eggs at Laurie Brayley during his talk. So come on, guys, £5 buys you an egg to hurl at Laurie Brayley.
Can I resign again yet?
No, because Abby's just come in. She's playing with my bits. Oh, she's
moving on. So some of the questions that we have had come in, we've had a few questions come in from both Facebook and on YouTube, so thank you very much for sending those in. If you do have any questions and want them answered, please just drop them in the comments either on Facebook or on YouTube. Ari is monitoring both when she gets back from whatever she's doing in there, and she will be passing them over, so if you do have any questions, please ask them. We'll try and get to as much as possible. Recent one, Patty has just put in, how good is Simon's aim? Bad. If you can miss a deer at point blank range, you'll miss me.
Yeah, but that's the only time in 40 years I've missed. And watch me, when I chuck an egg, it is going to end up on Laurie's body at some point, whether it's his face or his body or his middle or wherever. I will hit him, guys. Give those £5 in, because we'll make it a rip-roaring talk from Laurie. On top of which, Laurie, all the badgers can have the eggs when we finish with them, so that'll be really cool. Badgers love raw eggs. They really love them. It's one of their delicacies. Not they get them in the wild too much. They do eat birds' eggs and things like that, but they very seldom get a hen's egg. But sometimes they do. And so, still no £5, Laurie. Still no money. You're safe.
Questions coming in. Deborah has asked, if we see a fox with mange but don't know where exactly it's living, what should we do?
There are some homeopathic treatments you can get for foxes, which you can put in food and it comes out and gets it. My personal belief of homeopathic medicine is a bit questionable, if I'm dead honest. But having said that, I think any fox which is debilitated in any way, or any animal that's debilitated in any way, some short-term feeding for it is a good idea, because it brings up its immunity, it gets its strength back, and it's able to cope with more. So I often think when you put homeopathic medicine out for any animal, because it needs a bit of a boost, it's actually the food that's doing the great things. I should probably get now shot by all the homeopathic vets in the UK, but there we are. I'm so old, Laurie, I don't care, as you well know.
Mange treatment really depends on how severe it is. So if it's just the early stages of mange, with something like support feeding or anything like that, the animal actually can recover from certain bits of it by themselves. Obviously, if it's taken hold a lot more, or it's severe mange like you saw in some of the photos earlier, that is treatable by veterinary medication, and that is something that you can only get on prescription. So that animal would need to be caught up and taken into a centre. It's really, really bad just giving that medication if you can somehow get hold of it, because it is dose specific. So we have to weigh that animal and make sure that they're not overdosed on that animal, because it is very, very easy to overdose them on certain things, and it can cause massive issues depending on what's going on. The other thing as well is some things that look like mange may not actually be mange as well, and you don't want to treat for something that is not actually there. And as we said before, with mange you tend to get secondary infections if it's that severe, so that is also something that should be treated by a wildlife hospital if possible. If you are worried about a fox, please just call your local wildlife hospital for advice, and they will know what's best to do in your area.
Laurie, I've got good news and bad news, Laurie, for you. One is we just had £5 for the first egg. But then somebody else came back and said donate £10 and save Laurie from the egg. So
I'm £5 in then at the moment. I'm minus one egg.
You're minus one egg, but I'm going to still throw it. I've had £5 for an egg, and it will be thrown. At the end of this live stream,
if you want to go and get an egg, come in here and break it on my head. You are more than welcome to.
But that would make your hair look even worse than it does now, Laurie.
That is, yeah, that's very true. But
there you go.
That's an ultimatum for you.
It might improve your complexion. And it might sort of take out all the stubble that you haven't shaved for about the last 5 weeks.
I shaved like 2 days ago.
Well, you're trying to be manly now, Laurie. It doesn't work with me. You cannot pretend to be manly.
I didn't realise this was a comedy roast with someone that can't make jokes.
No, it's a spit roast, Laurie, and you know what they do to the pig on a spit roast, don't you?
Deborah Jeffrey has asked, I feed the foxes. I do feed the foxes the cat food that won't eat plus dog food. Keep an eye out, not that far from Alana. Oh, cool. So if you do need a hand, just drop us a message, because Alana obviously is within our catchment area. So, Terry has said, I brought a fox cub to you. Thank you very much. Found abandoned in my garden. Does the mum abandon them? He was the size of a kitten. So it really depends at that age. There could be one of many, many reasons. Either mum has been killed, either by a car or something like that, and they do eventually, as they get hungry enough, they crawl out of the den. and try and search around. You can find them at that point, but you can also find them if mum has been moving them between den locations and has been spooked. She'll often drop them and then run away and won't come back for them. That happens a lot as well. Or it could be that a cub has wandered out, got a bit lost. Usually they don't come out of the den at that age, but there are many, many reasons. We've had ones in that have been picked up by dogs and carried around. We've had basically anything you can think of for reasons why. And to be honest, a lot of them we'll never know. We never know the story unless you see it happening.
So, Laurie, while you've been chatting, there's a few comments coming which I want to pick up on. We haven't. Abby needs to yell some stuff if she's getting on Facebook. But we've had the first comment was Simon is out of control. Well, guys, true. Nothing's changed. Absolutely nothing's changed.
I like this recent comment from Vinaigrette, who said, Simon, at least Laurie has hair.
Okay, if you come over to open day, you're going to regret coming over hugely. I can tell you that. Serious question: how many animals do you have to put down, and what's the criteria for giving up on saving an animal? We hate putting down animals. Sadly, I suppose deer are one of the most frequent animals we put to sleep, and that's only because they can't make it back in the wild. We do not give up on an animal if it stands any chance at all of going back to the wild. We had a guy bought something in the other day and we put it to sleep and he said, oh, I would have paid for it, I would have paid for it. That is not anything we even think about. If that animal can be saved and we can get it back to the wild, to be honest, I don't tell the trustees this, but I don't care what we spend on it, we will get it back to the wild. So our criteria is if it's being cruel to the animal, if it's never going to be strong enough and fit enough to go back to the wild, that is our criteria of putting an animal to sleep. It is something we never ever do lightly, and we never will do. I mean, Laurie will tell you, I expect, to be honest, when I don't say it too much, but when I go out and shoot a deer, especially if it's a young deer, it wrecks me for a long time. I hate doing it. So we will not give up on an animal until we think the animal needs us to give up, if it can't make it back to the wild, because I don't want to keep it in captivity in a cage for the rest of its life. I think that's just cruel. So we fight like crazy for these animals. I don't fight quite so hard for Laurie, but it just amazes me. He keeps on going. He keeps on surviving, which is
actually,
really staggering.
We've just had a comment from That Rabbit, and yes, I know exactly who you are.
Oh yeah, Laurie is my perfect dream boyfriend.
Jacob. So any of you on YouTube who know Jacob, the guy with hair like this that we actually use as an artificial nest when we do have our baby birds here. Fantastic for that. So he's commented, Laurie is my perfect dream boyfriend, which is problematic, and I'm not sure if you've told Phoebe yet, because that might make a few issues.
And to me, it's very worrying. It's very worrying. I think Jacob's got to be looked at in a different light from now on.
Any of the moderators on here, can we just ban Jacob just because it would make
We've had quite a few comments come up on this which have actually been moderated before they got on the live stream. There was one which I can't even repeat, but I thought it was quite funny, but it's a bit near the mark, so that's why it never got up on a trail. And only still £5 for one egg. Guys, we need more £5s. We need more eggs. The more eggs we throw at Laurie, the more animals we can save. Just think of it that way. That's fair enough, isn't it? The more eggs at Laurie, the more animals we save. What can I say?
Patty has just asked over on Facebook, can deer recover when their legs are broken?
Yes, a deer. I mean, it could if it was a domestic deer, i.e., a farm deer. They could probably recover. The surgery would be long and hard. The recovery time would be dramatic. And the trouble is, we get round here mostly roe deer, and roe deer suffer from something called capture myopathy. We will always try to get any animal back, as we've said. But when you get something with a severely broken leg that's absolutely in pieces, that animal will never go back to the wild on 4 legs. Yes, we could argue it might go back on 3 and might survive for a while, but an animal, especially in this day and age, in this climate, on this planet, an animal needs to be at absolutely peak ability to survive all the hazards that are thrown at it, being our roads, being people, being cars, being dogs, being snakes, whatever. So we would not put a roe deer back with 3 legs for 2 reasons. One, it probably wouldn't survive for very long. B, the recovery time is enormous, and they're quite likely to go downhill when they come into a centre like ours. However careful we are, however much medication we give it, it's not going to stand a very good chance with capture myopathy and all the other things. The stress on deer, the stress on any wild animal when it comes into us, to be honest. People don't understand, I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between treating a domestic animal and a wild animal. A domestic animal is used to people. If you go and pick it up, it's probably not going to bite you, whereas a wild animal will be terrified. It's never seen a human before, probably. It's certainly never been picked up by a human, and it's going to fight for its life, and all that is additional stress. And you know, we can't keep 55 roe deer with broken legs here, because it would mean we couldn't take anything else in for the next 6 months because all the pens are full. We have to be pragmatic, we have to be hard, we try to do exactly the right thing for the animals, and if I was an animalist, I know how I'd like to be treated. But it's one of these subjects which you could talk about for ages, so rather than go on and on and on about it, we do our very best. We always think very hard before anything's put to sleep, and we always do our best to get it back.
So there's been quite a few questions that have come in on that, and we just need to clarify what capture myopathy is as well. So it's something that affects roe deer, affects other species as well, but isn't too much of an effect with fallow deer or red deer, which are the biggest species we get. Capture myopathy is effectively a stress-related cell death. So it is irreversible once it happens, and when they start to go down that road, effectively their body just shuts down and they will just drop dead. And that can happen anything from 20 minutes plus into a rescue. So if you go there and you try and bring them back to the centre to do a stitch up, they can die on the journey just because the stress of that will kill them. So if we ever do have to do anything that requires stitch ups or anything like that, we'll actually bring one of our vets out to the site, do that there as much as possible, and release them back to the wild. So a few people have been asking about things like sanctuaries. Obviously with deer, especially roe deer, capture myopathy is a huge factor. So you can't just keep them because the stress of that will kill them. And the other thing, a lot of the animals here, because everything is wild here, we see the stress that captivity causes, whether that be with a deer, a fox, a badger. Some of them, when they're ready to go back to the wild, go absolutely up the wall, sometimes literally. They're desperate to escape. And if you don't get the timing right, you don't get them back out when they are at level, they can injure themselves very, very easily. They are so desperate to escape, they'll try and dig out through concrete, they'll try and climb up metal railings, they'll try and do a whole manner of things. And in terms of keeping an animal that is used to the wild in captivity and subjecting it to that stress day in, day out, just because we want that animal to live, it's not fair on them. And it's something that it might be harsh with other people, but it's something that we ethically really don't agree with, keeping an animal in captivity when they are used to the wild. It's so cruel, and we do see the effects of that here at the centre, even with the animals that are only here for a few days, let alone the years they have left, which is why we'll try everything we possibly can to get an animal back out to the wild. And if we can't do it in the centre, we will pass that on to more specialist facilities that can. You guys have seen us work with people like Noel Fitzpatrick, the super vet, and a few others. We will try and find a way, if there's any way, to save the animal and get it back.
Some smart viewer, Laurie, who I'm not going to even dare to mention, that it says mostly sane, which obviously this viewer isn't, has said, "I'll donate £10 to Laurie to throw an egg at Simon." If Laurie did that, he'd be out of a job in 3 seconds.
And put an egg on your head if you would like.
He'd be out of a job in 3 seconds if he did that to me. I am a vindictive, nasty swine.
More questions.
Any more questions from Facebook, Laurie? Facebook gets sadly missed in this.
Yeah, we have.
Let's go with some Facebook stuff.
So, one from Diane. I feed hedgehogs. If a hog has one tick on it, is that okay, or does it need catching and removing?
Hedgehogs have often hundreds of ticks. It's something they're used to. It's something that happens in the wild.
Just to qualify, if they have hundreds, they do need help.
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to kill it. Well, we've had 134 ticks on a hedgehog before, and actually it was fine, but we decided to get them off. It was crazy. They do have ticks. They do get ticks, and it's a burden that they get in the wild all the time. If you see a hedgehog with too many ticks, obviously he's going to drain its whole system. It's not going to be good for it. Its immune system will start to fail. So yes, if it's got literally hundreds on, like a carpet of ticks, it needs to come in. It's just a quick couple of sprays with something called Frontline, and that actually gets rid of the ticks in time.
That depends on species, because certain species react to different things in a different way.
You can't do it on everything. But yeah, so they do have ticks. It's a natural encumbrance in the wild. My dogs sometimes get ticks as well. But you know, you can deal with domestics. In wildlife you can't. So if you're something that's really burdened, it's worth just bringing it in and we'll deal with it. But a few ticks, don't panic too much. It's not the end of the world. Or you could buy a little tick plucker, and if you can get to the animal.
I wouldn't recommend doing it by yourself, just because if you take a tick out in the wrong way, you actually tear the tick in half. You leave the head still in the animal, and that can lead to secondary infections and a whole load of other things like Lyme disease down the line. So if just a few ticks, perfectly fine. Eventually they'll fill up and they'll fall off in the same way that you get bitten by a mosquito. It's a bit of a pain, but won't do anything. If something has a really, really heavy tick burden, that can lead to things like anemia, which is a lack of iron, because a lot of that blood has been taken out, or anything due to that lack of blood and that lethargy that comes with that. So if you do see a heavy tick burden, please get in touch with the wildlife rescue, ideally with photos or videos, so that they can assess that and they will tell you what to do, whether that animal is fine just being left and monitored, or whether it needs to be caught and brought into a centre.
Let's have a few more Facebook questions, Laurie. Let's keep going with Facebook. I feel sorry for Facebook because I can't see their thing. Perhaps next week I'll have Facebook up here and not Twitter or not YouTube.
So, Robert has asked, all the way from the early days when WAF started, how many of your long-term serving volunteers do you still have left working at the centre?
Most of them have died. It's terrible. We've had a terrible couple of years with volunteers dying. It has been very sad. We've had some great volunteers who really didn't deserve to die this young. They have left us. They're so loyal, all our volunteers. It's not hundreds, obviously, that have died, but we have had people they feel they're too old to do it, they feel they're too old to give us the commitment. So this is why, I mean, we have a rota of 400 volunteers. We always want more because we can't always fill all the slots and the right slots, and there's animal jobs, there's reception jobs, there's all sorts of different jobs they can do. So don't feel shy in coming forward volunteering your services. There's maintenance work, there's all sorts of things you could do. Don't think because it's not what you think we want you to do that there's not something we can find you to do. So we do lose the odd volunteer. They're so faithful to us, our volunteers, and I say it all the time, I say it every time, you know, I can have dreamt up Wildlife Aid all these years ago, but without the volunteers we've got, we wouldn't have gone anywhere. We would be nowhere now. And
they really are the lifeblood of the centre.
We are one of the
several times.
We're one of the largest UK wildlife charities, I think, in this field, and we love what we do, but it is because of our volunteers and because of their devotion to us, dedication, devotion, whatever you want to say. That's why we keep surviving. Nothing else makes us work. I can want to do it, Laurie can want to do it, Abby can want to do it, but it doesn't always work. We haven't had our guest spot from Abby yet, Laurie, and we're nearly getting to the end of the hour. So she's got to do a guest spot. You know that, don't you, Laurie?
Okay.
Look, she's in the dark.
See Abby this time.
I think
Hello.
Adam, I think that's worth at least £9.99 from you.
Adam is asleep because he has jet lag.
I'm going to ring him and wake him up. I'm going to ring him and wake him up saying £9.99. I am a cruel person, but not as cruel.
One of the sheds.
Laurie, I'm not as cruel as you are. You know that.
So, questions coming from YouTube.
Oh, hang on. Laurie, stop you. I'm stopping you. Have you ever had a chicken? Now, I bet Laurie can't find this picture. Not that long ago, a few years ago, we did have a chicken, and everybody said it looks just like Simon. And up on social media popped this chicken's head with the most absurd haircut, even worse than Laurie's. I'm trying to give him time. I'm trying to give him time to find the picture, and he can't do it.
It's on the backup server. It's not on this one.
He can't find it. But no, we did have a chicken in, and you know, we obviously only deal with wildlife. That's what we deal with. But you know, if somebody is really struggling, we will go them on. We've had stray dogs in here, we've had stray cats in here. It's not what we do, so please don't rush them all into us, because it stops the work we want to do.
Got it!
Oh, you found the chicken! This is the picture that went up on social media when they found the chicken. Everybody said that looks just like Simon. It's got the same cross expression. So there we are. Okay, Laurie, I've got to take my hat off to you. And that's one less egg.
That's Abby told me where that was.
That's one less egg I shall throw at you on open day. But I've already banked up 100 eggs. I'm starting with 100 eggs for my own personal bank, and we'll go from there.
So, question-wise, Dan has asked, do either Laurie or Simon have a veterinary qualification, or is it just learning from experience? So, no, Simon and I, we're not vets. on that sort of things. I trained as a marine biologist for many, many years, and I've not used it at all. And Simon was a commodities broker in London, so we've both got very, very different backgrounds on that one. We are very lucky that we do have a fantastic vet team on site. So they handle all the actual veterinary side of things, and in terms of what we are allowed to do on a legal sense, in terms of the rescuing, the handling, the feeding, all of the other bits, we do as much of that as possible. But obviously anything that requires prescriptions, medications, suturing, surgery, that's all handled by our vet team. So huge thanks to those guys as well.
So Toasty Toast says they keep chickens. I've always wanted to keep chickens because I love, you go and buy the eggs in the supermarket and they're just nothing like a fresh farm egg. I've always wanted to keep chickens, but I just know I don't have the time to tend them and look after them, and I'd want them to be totally free range, which would mean they'd be sort of up at risk with all the wild animals we have here because they wouldn't be caged. We'd have to put them in a cage. Yeah, I'd love chickens because I love fresh eggs, but we don't have chickens, and if everybody keeps bringing us chickens, we're going to be in real trouble next week, so I should blame Laurie for that one.
So, just on the same question, we've had another comment on YouTube actually. Jamesy, has your veterinary skills ever come in handy for humans? So, actually, luckily, I may not be a vet, but I am a first aid instructor for humans, so I've done quite a bit of that. And unfortunately, and I can't believe I'm admitting this, I recently qualified that man as a first aider. So if you want to bleed out as he giggles over how you've managed to cut yourself, Simon is actually available as a first aider.
I was a first aider before you were born.
To make sure that you don't survive.
Laurie, before you were born, I was a first aider in the diving scene. So it's not so much just qualified. I've just got my papers back because we have to have it nowadays. We have to have a certain amount of first aiders on site. And you know, who would you rather get, me or Laurie? Who would you like to tend you, me or Laurie?
Should we have a poll? Who would you rather tend to you if you were injured, me or Simon?
I think
it's going to go definitely the wrong way, and most people are going to write Abby.
Something else came in then. Hang on. Oh, hang on. We haven't changed our wish list settings. That is very strange. I don't know anything about this, Laurie. We haven't changed our wish list.
We haven't done anything with our wish list.
Somebody's asking about our wish list.
No, someone's from the US. They just said normally our delivery address gets put in automatically, but they've had to put it in themselves. They're just wondering if we've changed anything.
We haven't changed anything on that side.
Nothing's changed.
If you do need our address, if you head over to our website, it is at the bottom. If you need it and you're urgently, it is Randall's Farmhouse, Randall's Road, Leatherhead, KT220AL.
Oh look, Wildlife Rescuer, Laurie. This is your favourite thing, and Abby's and various other people's here. I hate sodding things. They are the dreaded flat flies. If anybody's never worked with wildlife, flat fly is... My cameraman, who is a great big burly guy, used to go to the gym every day. He was a great, Jim Inkleton, I can take anybody on guy. Give him a flat fly in the room, and he was terrible. He might have been just nominated for a BAFTA, but, he's terrible.
Congratulations.
Terrified of flat flies. Terrified.
Everyone. To be honest, it's a long-running joke in the wildlife rescue and rehab field that flat flies are just the most hated thing you'll ever find. So they'll turn up on anything from deer to birds, and they're these tiny, tiny little flies. They're called flat flies because they're flies that are flat. And they'll land on you, and they will find their way into your hair and just sit there.
And you can flick your hair, you can wash your hair, you can do anything.
They are the most irritating thing that has ever been invented since Simon was born.
The biggest stickers on their feet that just stick to you like that, and you can't get rid of. You can feel them walking around like that. It is vile. They are vile.
I'm not sure who Wildlife Rescuer is, but I imagine they're in the same field.
They must be the same, without any doubt. They're not very nice, but certainly I don't go berserker flat flies. I don't like them, and I deal with them. But I don't do a Jim Inkleton. I mean, a Jim Inkleton's a special. It's a real big girly thing that Jim does when he's supposed to be such a butch man,
So, other questions from YouTube. GRG Skull Collector has asked, "Hi Simon, are you still rescuing swans?"
If there was a swan to rescue, I would be there diligently loving. I love swans. I think they're just they just make me laugh. I mean, they are great big vicious things, and they come towards you, and you get this absolute. There's a microsecond when they suddenly realise that you're not scared of them. Going from great aggressive, wings up, head up, everything up, they suddenly go, "Oh poo, Simon's not scared of me." So they sit down, and and then from their great big honking and all the noise, you get this pathetic little squeak coming out of swans when you actually capture them. You know, it's just gone. It's a pathetic little. I can't do that. Laurie will have to do a sound sort of this, but it's just so
I'm
funny.
letting you stew in that.
No, it's just so funny.
You made your bed.
I do love swans. They're great. We do rescue them all the time. I'm still up for doing most rescues. If it's jumping a 6'5" fence, that's absolutely fine as long as Laurie pushes me over the top, because there's no way I can do it by myself anymore. And that's what I get so frustrated about. I hate being old. I hate not being able to do what I could do 10 years ago.
An interesting thing with the whole swan thing is to discuss something that is quite prevalent here in the UK at the moment, and that is avian influenza. So if you do work in the wildlife rescue industry, the zoological industry, the bird farming industry, you will have heard of this. Every year we get an outbreak of avian influenza around the UK, and it causes mass problems. So we actually, for a long time, actually stopped taking water birds just because it was so bad we couldn't risk it arriving at the centre. So things like swans, ducks, geese, herons, anything on those lines, if they were showing any signs of avian influenza, we could not have them on site, because one confirmed case will completely shut the whole centre down, and we would have to kill every single bird on site. And depending on how bad that is, we may not be able to reopen to animals for a year. So we just absolutely cannot afford it. We actually have a completely separate unit now where all of the ducklings and everything like that are starting to arrive do go to, and they will be thoroughly checked for any signs of avian influenza and completely quarantined from the rest of the population before they're taken around the rest of the centre. So we do still do rescues of things like swans, but we do have to be very careful with avian flu at the moment.
Laurie, just because you're talking, Abby came in, we were chatting, so I apologise if you think I wasn't concentrating, but Abby just
You never concentrate on me.
Abby just found a shot of one of our little fox cubs who's obviously fallen asleep. He's come half out of his sleeping box and he's fallen asleep, and by the time Abby gets back there, we'll probably be able to set the camera up so we can see him. The badgers still haven't come out, so I'm waiting for Abby to put it up, and hopefully we shall see that.
Flip to this, and he's got the angle terribly. So
there
you can actually see this is one of our fox cubs. This is one of a group of, I believe, 3 that are in there at the moment. So this guy has eyes open. It's one of the older cubs that we have, and is really nice and asleep. This is actually the same camera that is streaming on our webcams, so if you did want to watch him live, head over to the website and you can watch him for as long as you wish.
It's the bottom fox cub camera.
There you go, it's the bottom fox cub camera. I have no idea what that means, but hopefully it makes sense to you.
I am sleeping. Stop waking me up, Laurie. Stop waking me up. They're very cute. I mean, all babies are cute, but he's just particularly cute.
Question from Dan. Do WAF or any other wildlife rescues offer courses in rescuing or helping wildlife?
A lot of centres do. We actually, because of the new centre we're trying to build, we are going to start to do online courses very soon, CPD for all sorts of different groups, and we will be offering courses. The trouble is, at the current centre we have no parking space. We're absolutely full up to the gunnels. We can't park people. We haven't got a big classroom, which is why we've bought this 20-acre site up the road, which will become the new Wildlife Aid Centre. As soon as we get that built, we will be running, courses there actually on the spot. But it's a lot of money to build it. We've got to raise an awful lot of money. We're hoping to get a significant grant from Surrey County Council. We're keeping our fingers tight crossed because it's not a promise, but we're hoping it's going to happen. And when we get that up, we will be doing far more than we do now. We are, however, and always will be, open to if anybody rings us, has got a question, anybody wants to know something, anybody's got a problem, we are always open to try to answer your problem. So if you've got a rescue you're going on, or you found something, or you've seen something and you want some sort of help and advice, please give us a ring. We are there 24/7. I say that term loosely because I am not, but Laurie is. Laurie's still sober at 10 o'clock at night. I very seldom am. But no, we will answer your question. If we can answer, if we can help, if we can give any advice at all, even on rescue equipment or how to rescue something particular, please don't ever, wherever you are in the world, don't hesitate to ring us. I remember one call, which I'm sure Laurie's heard this before, we got a call from somebody in Zambia when I was sitting in my office right here in London, saying, I've just found a lion cub, what do I do? And actually, believe it or not, because of all the trips we've been on throughout the world, I had that lion cub collected from that place within 20 minutes and safe in a sanctuary. So I'm not saying we can do that for everywhere all around the world, but certainly in the UK, give us a call. We will give you all the advice we can. We will try to help you as much as we possibly can. I'll shut up now, Laurie, shall I?
The other thing as well is if you are interested in going down the route of wildlife rehabilitation, either just as a volunteer or as a career, the first thing we would always recommend is volunteer for your local wildlife rescue centre. So if you're here in Surrey, please put in the forms and come here. Around this rest of the UK, if you don't know your local centre, if you head to helpwildlife.co.uk, you can put in your postcode, you can find your local rescue, and I'm sure they would absolutely love to have you on board. As we said before, volunteers really are the lifeblood of the centre, and pretty much everyone here, especially a lot of the staff, started as volunteers. You get to know exactly what's going on, you get that learning. Certainly the volunteers that we have to go through an extensive training program. They're books about this big before they can handle certain species, and that's constantly growing. And we have routes for our volunteers to become rescuers or orphan feeders or a whole load of other things. And if you do want to get into that, the best possible way is to volunteer for your local centre.
So I'm still struggling here, Laurie, because this wildlife rescuer person again has disappeared.
Luke.
Oh, is it? No, but he said no. So then he's watching his own thingamy-bob, because it says Luke reckons doing a sponsored Bacardi and Coke IV drip for Simon. So that's Luke talking.
From Oxfordshire Wildlife Rescue.
That's Luke talking about himself.
And
Luke's
guys,
talking about
if
himself.
you haven't heard of Oxfordshire Wildlife Rescue, please go over and pay them a visit, because they do a lot of good work.
He's young, doesn't know what he's doing. He's not going to last. He's not going to last in the game. He's not going to make it. He's not like me.
Luke,
he's not like
we
me.
love you dearly. Please ignore the fact that the man sat on, well, the left of me on the screen is a complete idiot. Other comments on YouTube before I get fired. George has asked, how many fox cubs do you bring in over a year and get back to the wild? So in terms of numbers, we tend to deal with well over 70 fox cubs in a year. We have actually gone a lot more than that. In terms of the facilities we have here, obviously we have to be careful with numbers. So if we do go over what we can take at the centre, we actually take those fox cubs and send them off to other centres who have the facilities and the space to get them back. 'Cause it's much, much better to do what you can for what you can actually deal with, rather than try and cram everything in, because then your quality of care goes down for everyone. So if we do go over the numbers that we can have, we will pass those on, but we won't ever turn anything away. And in terms of success rates, both with foxes and badgers, we very, 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 very rarely lose cubs at all. And if we do, it is almost always because of what we call congenital conditions, which are conditions that exist from birth. So,
Laurie, can Abby switch very quickly onto the fox cub cam for a minute?
You can indeed. I have no idea what's going on.
She will see that they've all suddenly woken up, and two of them are wandering around their pen. We're going to play, time for a game, I'm ready, where's my food?
We don't talk to our animals.
No, but I can talk to them on the cameras. This is great, because I can talk to them on the cameras. They can't hear me, but I get my satisfaction. I better dinner. I fall over, Laurie.
As well. In terms of our orphans, whether it's foxes or badgers, as soon as their eyes open and their ears open, it is absolute silence. No human contact. They're in a pen. That pen actually is covered in microphones, so if anyone drops a pin in there, our veterinary team will hear that, find out, and will go in and make sure that doesn't happen again. You have to be really, really careful with young animals to avoid the risk of imprinting. So as soon as those eyes and those ears open, every single bit of human contact, other than the absolute necessary human contact, is cut, and it's the only way of making sure that they'll get back to the wild. And it does work very well. We actually had one of our previous fox cubs that we released a while ago turn up, unfortunately with mange, is doing very, very well, but that fox is probably the feistiest fox we've had in a long time. Will sit in the corner and growl at you, and if you try and catch it up, will actively snap at you if you get too close. Very, very, very feisty fox, exactly what a wild fox should be, and amazingly it shows what can be done if you raise them right and you're able to get them back out to the wild, because to be honest, we want them to hate us because they need the fear of humans.
It's so easy to hate Laurie, so it's very simple. And if Abby just switches back
Everyone hates me, including
Abby
me.
just switches back to the webcams for a minute. It's not the most active picture you'll see, but you can see there just about one of our badger cubs is just coming. This is a new bed. They only went up there today, so they've gone up to their new pen, which you can all look at on the webcams. But there's one badger with his head. He's obviously fallen asleep, just trying to come out of his little nest. He's dropped off. I've dropped Abby's line, so I'm going to put that down until she rings me again. So there's a little badger cub, fast asleep, and he'll probably wake up later. They're much more active at night than they are during the day. We're feeding them mince and puppy mousse and all sorts of things in the morning, so those bowls around them are all different sort of foods. They've only just started eating by themselves, so we're monitoring their weight very closely every day to make sure they're still gaining weight. And they will be fine given a bit of time, won't they, Mr. Brayley?
They will indeed. Just to answer a couple of comments that have come in. So Alex has asked, how did we know it's the same fox? So our fox cubs, when they're released, are actually microchipped for research purposes. So we use RFID gates, these sort of chip scanner things that we'll put over certain areas, and we'll check their progress and make sure they're doing okay. So it was a fox that was actually brought in very, very close to one of our release sites of previous years. So just to be safe, we did a scan it, the same thing that you'll get for pet dogs and things like that. And we were able to find and look at the chip number and make sure which one that is. So that is how we found that one out.
I chipped Laurie a few years ago, but it's very hard to get the scanner near him because he runs every time I get it anywhere near him.
So going back to something that's actually educational and useful, Sue has asked, for 5 years I've had hedgehogs in 2 houses in my garden where they had babies. Unfortunately, a new neighbour said they are vermin and have killed 3 already. What can I do about it?
I'm hitting you with a scanner. Do you not see that, Laurie? Can you not see that?
Oh, I'm
amazing.
so sorry.
So there's our scanner. That's what we use on all the wildlife. Donated by Halo. So brilliant people, the guys at Halo. Thank you so much for these. Without them, we'd be absolutely in trouble. Are we supposed to be thanking anybody else, Laurie? Because we're way out of time now, really.
Would you
we
like
got any more
answer this
thanks to
question
do?
whilst we're here?
Huh?
Would you like to answer the question?
No, it's boring.
So Sue has asked, for 5 years I've had hedgehogs in 2 houses in my garden where they had babies. Unfortunately, a new neighbour has said they're vermin and have killed 3 already. What can be done?
I can't say what I'd like to say, but I wouldn't do something very nice to the neighbour. They're not vermin at all. No wildlife is vermin in my mind at all, and without wildlife, without all the species from the invertebrates all the way up to the highest mammals, mankind wouldn't be here. So I would write something to the press if it was me.
Can we also just say hedgehogs are protected under the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981. So if you do kill one without reason and without going through an awful lot of steps, you are breaking the law. So if
I would write to the local
someone is
paper.
doing that, you need to report it because that is completely illegal.
Trick of that, Laurie, without getting too technical, is write to the local paper and shame the people, because it's a tragic thing to say. And hedgehogs of everything are the most beautiful creatures. They're the most
recently
voted
Britain's most loved mammal.
Yeah,
one of the most controversial things we have.
Actually, I thought I was the most loved mammal, Laurie. Wasn't
it
me?
No, that's most hated.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
I knew I got it.
It's difficult to get those two confused.
I knew I got it. Laurie, we've got to go. Anybody else we've got to thank? We've got to be quick now. Come on, do some thanks.
Oh, Patty, report them. Sue's neighbours sound like vermin. That I think is paraphrasing what you were going to say.
Yep.
So, Gen Level said, isn't it illegal to fox hunt in the UK? Yes, it is. It's been illegal to hunt foxes with dogs since 2004, I believe. The legal loopholes to that is you can use 2 dogs to chase a fox with a gun, I believe is legal, but obviously there are certain restrictions there, and it is still legal at the time of this live stream to trail hunt, which is following a scent. But in terms of actually setting a pack of dogs on foxes, yes, that is illegal, and if you do suspect that that's happened, please report it to your local police wildlife crimes officer and it will be investigated.
Yeah, I've gone very quiet, so I just touched my keyboard, which I didn't mean to do, so I've lost all the questions. So it doesn't matter now because we're out of time. Any more thanks we've got to give, Laurie?
Well,
lactating females. Laurie, you can talk about lactating females. Go for that one.
That is a weird tangent. So that actually has a meaning. So at this time of year, unfortunately, we will be seeing an awful lot of dead or dying foxes or badgers on the side of roads. And sadly, as mankind moves further and further and further into animal spaces, it's something we're seeing an awful lot more of. The problem is, at this time of year, is they will have young. And if you do find a fox or a badger that is dead on the side of the road, please check it. Check if it's male or female. With both badgers and foxes, it's quite obvious at that point just to check that. And if it is female, just check whether it's lactating, so that's whether it is producing milk. If it is producing milk, then please almost immediately report it to either your local wildlife rescue or your local fox or badger monitoring group, and someone can come out and find those cubs, because without mum, especially in these early stages, they will die. And if you can get one of those cubs and get someone to find those and safely take them back to a rescue, it is absolutely vital. So if you do find a fox or a badger on the side of the road, if safe and legal to do so, please pull over, check to see if it's female and check to see if it's lactating. If you do, give your local wildlife rescue a call and we can go from there, because you can save so many lives doing so.
So what else got? Strimming. You're going to start cutting your grass soon. I've actually started cutting. I've cut my grass 3 times already this year, which is quite terrifying, to be honest. But if you're going to strim and you've got long grass, please just walk through the long grass very carefully and have a good look first. We get so many animals, especially hedgehogs, coming during the spring and summer that have been strimmed, and it's a lot of work. You can't always save them. Sometimes we can, but it's a massive amount of work, and it just means walking through the long grass first, having a good look, having a good feel, and if it's clear, then strim. But if it's not, just make sure you've got everything out of the way. We're very
good point, actually, just whilst here, if you are abroad in America or anything like that, please check your local wildlife as well. It's not just foxes and badgers, that's just what we have in the UK. So in America you will be having things like raccoons and an awful lot of things like that. Same thing at this time of year, double check, make just sure that you check if it's female and if it's lactating. If so, contact any authority you can find and go from there, because without intervention those cubs will not make it, and even if you can just save one, it's better than nothing.
Absolutely. Laurie, we're so far out of time now, it's terrifying. We are going to close down, guys. Thank you so much for being with us. Please spread the word. We'd love to get more people on this chat every single week we do it.
We'll try and make sure we do it properly next time.
We do it, that'll be a first. Don't be so silly, Laurie. We do it every 4th Wednesday in the month, so the end of the month, the last Wednesday of the month, we will be here, Laurie and I together. Me, very handsome, although
I'm going to be
a bit of wrinkled
from now
neck.
until the next live stream.
I don't like my neck. I'm right. Can we swap necks? Because I don't like my neck. It's horrible. I'm going to wear a scarf from now on. I'm going to be like that from now on. Guys, thank you so much.
There you go.
Thank you so much for being with us. Laurie's already blanked me off the screen. I feel blanked. I feel deserted. I just want to thank every single one of you for tuning in, because we actually quite, believe it or not, we quite enjoy doing this. And we can impart just one little pearl of wisdom, one little piece of information to you on any of these live chats, then we've done our job, and we can, so you and us, between us, can save another wild animal. So guys, it's with huge love from me, and I suspect from Laurie as well. Thank you for being with us. Thank you so much. And Abby did her little guest appearance, not very long forever, but Abby, we love you too.
So from me, thank you so much to every single one of you who has liked, commented, shared, donated, everything. We say this all the time, we're not government funded, we can only do what we do thanks to your help. And it's not just us that's like that, every single wildlife rescue around the UK, not government funded, can only do what they do thanks to your help. So please do try and find your local wildlife rescue, support them, support us. We're all in this together. There's a lot of you guys from other rescues in the chat at the moment, so thank you very much for watching.
Just before we sign, Laurie, I'm going to 1 second now. I've just had a text from a certain Luke in a certain county not too far away from here, who said, "You blank blank blank, LOL." So Luke, best of luck to you, mate.
Luke. I'll put him down later.
We're here. Yeah, I should be put down really, but there we are. So no, any wildlife centre, if you can give your local wildlife centre any support you can. Everybody needs it. We've had Brexit, we've had all the problems in the world because of Ukraine and all the other situations. Money is not coming in well. COVID's killed us really badly. We normally had lots more money in from legacies and everything else. It's not coming in. So every wildlife centre, if you're local to it, please give it your support. And if you don't like your wildlife centre, just support us. That's fine. I'm old. I need all the support I can get. Guys, good night. Love you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe, and we will see you on April the 27th for the next one.